Hey everyone, welcome to another speed paint. I'm Stoff Graphics, and today we're going to be doing a pirate speed paint. For this one, I was really inspired by like a couple sea shanties I heard, and just wanted to do some kind of like pirate concept art. So here's what I decided on. I wanted some type of smug kind of captain of some sort. I kind of drew my inspiration from One Piece, a couple other like pirate themes from like Dungeons and Dragons, and thought they'd work. So with the sketch, I wanted something more flamboyant, more like showboaty. So I have a off-the-shoulder button-up with a few other details. I do have a sword that's coming up. It's ornate with like a bunch of gemstones and also the beading of the necklace. For the speed paint, I wanted to make sure I had some type of feminine and masculine energy with this character, so that's what I've decided. I do change the arm just so that there isn't a stiffness towards him, and also I can practice hands since that is something I do struggle with. Although this isn't my favorite hand, it does still show at least some type of practice. I do have to edit a few things. I didn't like how the pants were lace up, and I had to make sure the necklace wasn't just floating and it actually had some kind of dimension with it. Now I'm just sketching out the scabbard. I was gonna just have a classic straight sword, but I decided on a scabbard. I decided on a scimitar just for some kind of cool detail. With the liner, I just wanted something simple, flowing, and like sketchy. I tried doing some kind of like sketch line before and I didn't like it, so I just go with a thinner cartoon brush just to give some kind of dimension with it, while also making sure the colors are the main show of the piece. The hand, I wish I could have done better. If I were to redo this, I'd edit and make sure I study more hands, just to make sure it isn't just boxy, square, and just boring. Something that I like about this piece, it was just how flowing and intricate the fabric I did, and how I grew from what I normally do. Another thing I would change is the hand in the pocket. It seems too short to be able to fit in there, or just too small to be like an actual hand. I would fix that if I do try and redo this piece later in my career. With the color, I made a little table just to make sure everything goes together and that I have every base color down. I use the paint bucket tool just to make sure I get everything down and that it's easier for me getting everything done. Because of my line art, it's not solid, so I do have trouble finding out where everything is. But when I find where the holes are for the paint bucket tool, I do fix those. When I put everything together, like with the colors, I do edit some of them just to make sure they do go together and that they aren't too similar and just muddy. I do have some trouble with some of the paint bucket tool swatches, I guess, where instead of where the blank space is, it goes onto the line art and just makes it weird and blocky. I loved how earthy the colors I chose were, and just instead of my normal I add a bit color, I add a bit of mismatchy color. I add a bit of cell shading to the body just to make sure I do have some of that defined shading when I go back into airbrush to blend out some of the places. I go in with just a little bit more airbrushing to get the shading and the lighting down, and then I add a little bit of chest hair with a hairbrush later on after I bring in blushing for the body. I darken in the chest just to make sure it is shadow. And then I add in the eyes. Because the piece is so large, we'll say, I didn't have that much detail into the eyes, so I just had a base color and just a little bit of lighting and then highlight. Then I also go in with some detail brushes. I wanted something for the pants, some like detail, but couldn't find any brush for that. But with the shirt, I do go... With the shirt, I do go in to a different layer just to make sure it doesn't mess up with pants or any other part of the piece. Clean up a little, just making sure everything is correct. Then I go in with a cool looking brush just to get a pattern on the shirt and make sure I add in that detail that I wanted. I go in with shading just to make sure everything is defined as well and blends in with the rest of the piece. With the hair, I go in with this hairbrush again and just make sure there is some sort of like hair type as I'm shading and make sure it's hair instead of just some type of block. With my style, I want to get more detailed with my pieces and make sure everything isn't just flat color and no detail at all. I go into the facial hair and see what else I can do. I do resize everything so it fits correctly. With the skin, I also go into freckles to add more detail, like I said, and just give it some more life. I go into the scabbard and color it, giving it that highlight and shadow, and then I go into the hilt and do some more shading. I add some shine, and then I go into the jewels and try and add some kind of depth to them as well. With the necklace, I do add some random symbols that I was thinking of in order to make it less weird, to give the necklace more detail. After the shading and highlights, I go in to add those symbols. I resize the eyes just so I can move them up and everything is symmetrical. Now with the shadow, I select all of the character and just erase all that I didn't want to be shaded. This was just an added bonus of darkness, so everything is blended and everything has some sort of similar lighting and stuff. I use the blending layer and opacity to make sure it blends, and then I do the same thing with lighting and use a yellow tone because of the sun and see what I can add for that. I erase and blend in some places so it adds more dimension. I wanted to distance myself from the line art, so I do erase it and just use the brushes from my Photoshop collection. Something I wanted to work on is just make sure that my backgrounds have some sort of detail and match with my style. I go back in just to blend in some of my pieces, blend in my hills, and make sure it's not too blended. Make sure it's not too detailed compared to the character. And make sure the beach isn't too covered with grass, and just make sure it's small enough for what I wanted. Keep the line art for the boat so it still has some definition within what is already painted. I add a little bit more dynamic shading into the background just to make sure it's up to par with what I wanted. And now we're done. Here's the final piece. Hope you all enjoyed this speed paint, and hope to see you next time. I had lots of fun with the speed paint and just adding more details. Some of the details I did off camera, forgot to press record, but those added details I do think added to the piece. Hope we all had a nice day, and good day.